stage. Silly games of second guessing. I just forget the lessons that I couldn't learn. Because one street over there's a life I could have known. It would have kept me from the one I had today. Time's gone by, I've traded black dirt into clay. I thought my memories would end. One street over's now 1,000 miles away. When I close my eyes, I'm back to where I've been. In this life there's nothing certain, simply curtain that rises to the stage. Silly games of second guessing. I just forget the lessons that I couldn't learn. Because one street over there's a life I could have known. Would have kept me from the one I had today.
Hello, good morning. This is 1100 WSTI, Neutral LaVern. And this is One Street Over. Welcome to it. Monday morning, I'm back in the saddle, as they say. Matt Driscoll's joining me. Hello.
Good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing today?
I had to make him smile when he came in.
Oh, this is early for vacation, man. I'm telling you.
You know, I think that's one of the things. I got a message from one of my vice principals yesterday that they have decided to use my room at the school for summer school. And I did not have my room ready for people to come in it. Because, I mean, I left it kind of, because I was planning on going in there and spending a full day this week and cleaning. And because right up until the end of us leaving the Friday of school, I was trying to finish things up with the kid. I mean, I was, just busy. And so I didn't really have time to do a deep clean like I wanted to leave it for the summer. And plus I'm doing a lot of stuff in the studio. So I thought, I'm just going to go in. I knew I had class all last week. That's the reason. Hi, y'all. I missed y'all. Thank y'all, Lee Marie and Deborah, for holding down the fort while I was out. But I'm done with my all-day classes in Murfreesboro. I've got some night classes still in the fall. But anyway, so I knew I had that last week. And so I thought, okay, I've got it on my calendar to go one day this week and just kind of, do a deep clean on my room. And I get a call from Mr. Sutton last night. We're using your room for summer school. And I'm like, oh, that's not good. So I went back out there and took care of some things. And I mean, it still, needs some stuff. But I told him, I said, I'll come in Tuesday after I get done with radio. And I think people just don't realize I still get up even during summer break. I mean, I'll take a little bit of time off.
Yeah, bless you for that. I'm all set.
Honestly, though, it's good because it keeps you in a routine of getting up. So when like last fall, when it was time to hit it again, I mean, it was no big deal. I just got done with radio and went on into school.
I just always been a night owl.
Okay. Me too.
I'd rather.
It's God's little joke making me get up at dark 30 my entire career. So, I like being a night owl.
Look, it is hard. It is hard staying this pretty, okay? I need my beauty sleep. This doesn't just come naturally, all right? This does not come naturally.
You're funny. I love it. All right, guys. Well, good morning. Welcome to it. And just a little of a technical note, okay? So we've been playing around with our social media presence. So I had been only sending the show down on the WSGI side and then sharing that. But because of the way the Facebook world works, then that means that the people who follow me at LaVern Vivio, you have to go to my page to find it. It doesn't pop up if you're following me. So it's hurt our digital audience as far as what I'm seeing as I'm looking at
digital footprint.
Yeah, as I'm looking at the data, right? I'm like, okay, we're missing out on some of our audience by not putting it on both Facebook pages. So now you can either watch us on WSGI's Facebook page, because I'm going to continue to share it because I want you guys following WSGI. And I kind of like that I did that for a little season to let people see WSGI has a page. So I'm going to keep sharing that. I'm going to keep sharing that and doing both, but I'm also going to originate the show from my own Facebook page as well. And so just kind of keep that in mind. If you see 2 postings, you can follow either one of them. But I wish you would just share them both, guys, because if we can get this out, I had somebody the other day say, "Yeah, I'm one of your 4 followers." I'm like, "What?" I'm on because the radio station's just kind of building their following. So we need more followers on WSGI, and follow my LaVern Vivio page too. Because guys, I'm going to be adding some stuff here. I'm hoping before the end of the year. I've got Ilyu, our president of Ebenezer Broadcasting, Maldonado. Ilyu Maldonado has challenged us to do, several of us, to do an hour a week unique podcast that can be shared not just from a radio perspective, but throughout through the network they're building. So I'm going to be working to put together some unique content for a podcast like that, just myself. And there's some of us individually that are going to be doing that. And I can't figure out when I'm going to do it. Probably on Friday mornings.
Yeah, podcast's the way to go.
Well, I think I'm going to do it on Friday mornings from 6 to 7 a.m. So even earlier. Because once school starts, that's the only way I'll be able to facilitate it.
I've been thinking about doing a podcast myself.
Well, talk to Ilyu because you could come in here because seriously, guys, if you've got something you want to do broadcast-wise, you can do this from your home and all of that. But there is some legitimacy that is assigned to a podcast because everybody does video along with it. Very few people only do audio anymore. You do some kind of a video presence too. Right. But if you want to do a video presence and you can have a place that is studio-esque, it's got a studio look. That's the way
to reach people nowadays. Yes. The podcast, YouTube, that's what people are watching. That's where their attention has gone.
Right.
And it's such a wide market for it.
Yep. There's lots of them, but it's just like there's lots of things to choose from in entertainment as there always has been. So if you've got a message that God's put on your heart, especially from a spiritual perspective, do it. And if you've got something that you want to do that's just silly and fun, do that too. I love good comedy, and I've got a lot of, my friends, oh my gosh, I've got dear friends that are in several different churches, Northfield Church, the Well House Church, and then I think City Point has one of the girls is in it. But they have a thing called the Honey Rock Chapel Church, and it's the church office, and it's a spoof on The Office. And it's cheesy as all get out, but it's actually kind of funny. I mean, it is funny. And they come in, they've been in once, and I've talked to them, and they're going to come in a couple of weeks after my knee surgery. I'm having knee replacement next Monday, y'all. So I'll be out next week, but that's why Matt's in here. And one more programming note. One of the preachers I follow that I talk a lot about is Jason Ball, and he is the preacher at Centerpoint Church up in Hendersonville. And he is one of them. He was the associate pastor at Life Church with Bobby Davis up in Cookeville. And that's how I got familiar with him. He is the one that was a history teacher. I don't know if you've heard me talk about him. He was a history teacher. And if you ever hear me talking about the knowledge doubling curve, I got that from him. And there's several things that I use. I got straight from Jason. And he is coming in tomorrow. He's got a couple of kids' books. And I want to show those. And he just got his doctorate. And so he's kind of, the same kind of thing you've done, coming out of a different career and following a different, and going into the ministry path and doing all these things. So there's a lot of parallels between you guys, but nonetheless, he's coming in tomorrow from Hendersonville. Anytime somebody makes the drive that far, I gotta give him kudos. So
he's done amazing things with that church. I mean,
are you familiar with
Centerpoint? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean,
it's completely turned around. The pastor that was there years ago, I mean, he was a great guy.
Yeah. You're familiar with it. See, I don't know anything about it, the church, except from what I've heard following him.
Yep. He came in, he's completely revamped. I mean, we drove by the other day. I was like, wow, look at him. They did a complete paint job, complete redo of the entire church. He's doing a lot of good things.
Very good.
I have a couple friends that go there, and they say it's been completely night and day.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love the fact that he's got this teaching background as history.
He revitalized it. Is what he did. He was able to revitalize it, brought new energy in. I think he's I haven't really met him personally, briefly once, but from what I've heard from their congregants and what I can see of the church, he's done a lot of good.
Very good. Well, Jason will be in here tomorrow. Dr. Jason Ball. Can't wait to say Dr. Matt Driscoll.
Someday.
That's your journey, too. You're going to head that way. I will never make that.
And I'm only doing that just, the only reason I'm doing that is I want my wife to call me doctor. I'm not going to take out the trash. I'm not doing anything unless she calls me doctor.
Oh, that's hysterical. That's funny. I honestly and truthfully, I would love to have I would love to have my master's. I would love to have those kinds of things just because it would give me more credibility in the things that I feel called to teach. Yep. But I am 61 years old. I do not feel like that's something that God wants me to spend the money or time doing. I told somebody one day, I said, I guarantee you, with all the study that I have done in the past 5 years, I have a master's level of theology right now. I don't have any doubt. I'll put it up against anybody. Now, I have not taken Greek and Hebrew and all of those things. I know a lot about it, and that's something I'm going to jump into eventually. But from a theological standpoint, I've definitely got master's level study behind me.
A few years ago,
I'll get to the doctorate.
A few years ago, Long Hollow was actually looking at starting their own university. It was going to be pretty much, dang near free, really, if not really super cheap. I don't know really whatever happened to that. But they were holding classes and they were working on getting accredited and whole 9 yards.
I think a lot of that sometimes too, when you have something that is free, there's no skin in the game, and people will be like, "Well, I'll go or not go." It's the same thing.
I think that's why they started putting a small fee to it just for that.
If you don't have the skin in the game, you don't tend to stay with it. And so
I figure the doctorate that I want to work on is yes, I know I joke about making my wife call me doctor, but the main reason is I want to be able to affect change in education.
Amen.
And it's not going to be an admin like a lot of folks go to Trevecca. That's something Trevecca offers for their doctorate is the admin side. But I want it to be in education side and the classroom side.
Mm-hmm. I got you.
And I know, and some ideas I've thought about for my doctorate. It's going to be some things that are going to make me very, very uncomfortable for the mainstream education.
Okay. Interesting. Okay.
Because to me, it's common sense. Let's go back, if we're complaining about our test score numbers. To me, let's just use a little common sense. Let's go back to a period where our test scores were higher. Mm-hmm. And how are we teaching then?
Right.
To me, that's I don't need a doctor for that. That should be the most common sense. But
right.
I think that's something along those lines is where I'm thinking I'm working on my doctorate is to show that this constant changing is not working. This constant modifying and going away from the old school is just wrong.
Well, and you even have some political aspirations.
I do.
You would like to do some political stuff.
I do, and I think the only way to affect change. One of the reasons I got into teaching was I was complaining about the state of education. Mm-hmm. So I figured, okay, time to get off the sidelines into the game. So that's what one of the drivers decided to go back, get my degree in teaching and go into teaching. I can sit back and complain about it or do something about it. Now I want to see it firsthand. And I remember talking to Christy about it, my wife, and she was like, I'm talking about man, here's some of the problems. She said, well, what makes you think you can see all these problems and nobody else does? I was like, baby, look, Ray Charles could see this within 2.2 seconds. Just getting into education, with some of the stuff. Mm-hmm. It's just kind of ridiculous. We're worrying about the wrong things.
Right.
We're not worrying about the right thing. When I got clients in the counseling side coming to me that have a 5th grade reading level, but yet they got a high school diploma only because they just kind of got pushed through because we're worried about numbers. Mm-hmm. And that's across the board. So with the doctorate and running for office thing, the 3 things I'm very passionate about that is, mental health, is drug epidemic, and education. Mm-hmm. Well, how can I affect that change? Yeah. And the only way I can truly affect that change is at the state level. That's not a federal level thing. That's each individual state's mental health facilities is up to individual states. Mm-hmm. State rights. Same with the drug rehab facilities. That's a state level thing. Education, state level. Especially if you hear what Trump had said during an interview this weekend. If he's elected, one of the first things he wants to do is he wants to cut the federal education. As far as
Send it back to the state.
he wants to send it back to the state. So we're going to need folks at the state level willing to step up and do what's right for the kids. You know, instead of all this liberal, crazy, insane stuff they keep on adding on that just drives our numbers more down and down and down. You know, when we're focusing just on graduation level and we're just pushing these kids through, that's not doing these kids justice. And when I think about reading, I'd rather have a kid take 10 hours to read one sentence but at least retain it than be able to read an entire book in 10 minutes but doesn't know a thing they read. To me, that just doesn't make any sense. This does not compute with me. You know, I remember last year sitting down reading the Constitution, the Bill of Rights with my students, and I'd ask them, okay, what do y'all think this word means? And they pronounce it perfectly. So they can perfectly enunciation, okay, but what does it mean? And they have no clue. So they're just so used to regurgitating. I mean, we can get Siri to do that. I mean, we can get an AI program to pronounce a word perfectly, but it's not going to know what it means.
Right. That's one of the, it's so funny you mentioned AI, and that's such a challenge for teachers right now, is the trying to make sure kids are not just pushing assignments through an AI application and turning it as their own. And that's one of the tells is the verbiage that's in it. I had somebody turn in something at the end of the semester, and I looked at them and I said, okay, I know you didn't write this. Yeah, I did. And I said, well, what does this word mean? I had no clue. And it was in it. And I was
obvious.
Like, come on.
It's obvious.
So obvious. So.
I mean, at least maybe have the comments. If you got to cheat so you don't get caught. Look, I ain't gonna lie. There's nobody that's going to college just because never plagiarized. Okay, you got this last minute thing. You're plagiarizing like a son of a gun. But what you do, you be smart enough to go through and reword a bunch of words. Yeah, so it doesn't get caught.
See, I never have.
You gotta be.
I gotta be honest with you. I'm that's something that I don't understand. And this is something that
there have been times
I pounded home with my students. And this is something I got from Kerry Roberts whenever I first dipped my toe in the political waters. And somebody else had given it to him. It says, the truth is the absence of any intent to deceive. And I told the kiddos, I said, if we could get back to that, and if we could just get back to that, we would have a renewal of integrity in our societies and our country. And I said it would change everything. Because when I first got into the classroom and realized how hard they try to cheat, I was blown away.
If they could put half that energy just to doing the work.
Yeah. And I said, and that's why I took, if I give you a test, it's on paper and pen, no computer.
Yep, I don't do it either.
Don't let you do them digital anymore because you cheat.
Yep.
And too much. Then there's some that don't. I actually had a kiddo come up to me last year, and I had paper and pen test, and he goes and he came back into the room like an hour or two after he had taken a test. He said, "Miss Vivio," he says, "I got to tell you something. The question such and such, such and such." He goes, "You weren't looking," and I peeked at my phone and looked it up. I was like, "Wow," and I told him, I said, I am so proud of you for coming and telling me that. And honestly and truthfully, I didn't penalize him because I didn't give him the answer on that question. I mean, I marked it wrong because it was, I had given him 100 or whatever on it. and so I marked the answer wrong. And I talked to a fellow teacher and he was like, you probably should have given him a 0. And I'm like, I don't think so. I think I should reward somebody for having the chutzpah
to be honest
and say, you know what? It's bothering me. And I want to tell you what I did because, well, there needs to be, the person who I was talking to about it said, well, there need to be repercussions for the cheating. But I'm like, I would rather reward the honesty than penalize the original dishonesty. Redemption's real. And what it takes for a kid to go, man, that's bothering me. That's a conscience. That kid.
No, that's good.
That's a good kid. And so I didn't. I didn't penalize him. I just marked the answer wrong that he told me he cheated on. And I was like, man, I really applauded him. I wrote a little note on his paper and said, I'm very proud of you.
Yeah, I only do paper tests to myself. I remember I have a student like completely just sleep the entire class for the week. And all of a sudden on Friday they're getting 100. It's like there's no way.
Yeah.
There's no way.
Mark, my husband, Mark, he's a criminal justice teacher, and he had a kid and basically did the same thing. And he is so organized and so structured. And he realized that after this kid took the test, that his answer key that he had kind of over here to the side. He goes, I don't know when the kid stole it, but he had to have stolen it because it's gone. And the kid had taken the test and blown it. And then I let him retake it and he gets 100. So I'm like, I can't prove it, but I'm fairly sure he snagged my answer key.
Yep.
So he had to change that complete test. I mean, he can't reuse it now because the answer key's out there. And he's like, oh my gosh. He goes, that just blows my mind. But it was missing. And it was, you blew the test. And then 30 minutes later, you got 100. There's something wrong with this picture. You know.
I mean, I did the same thing in high school too. The only reason I passed chemistry is I cheated my butt off.
Yeah, but see, you had a different journey, and you're honest about it. And like I said, redemption is real.
It wasn't me.
That doesn't mean we say, okay.
No. Hey, hold on. There's a story about it was our chemistry final. This is back in the day where the teacher said, what was the thing where they had to spin it and it had the blue ink?
Yeah.
But there was like a pre-printer for teachers, right?
Yeah, what do they call those things?
Xenograph or something like that. Whatever it was.
Will tell us.
Whatever it was.
It smelled great.
I don't know.
Smell the ink. It's like, ooh, this fresh print.
Okay, we have a blue chip for that tomorrow night. So we had somebody in our class that gone to the teacher's lounge and took the paper from the trash. And the entire class had the answers.
Oh no!
We handed out the entire class because it was a hard class to pass. I mean, it was chemistry. Who likes chemistry other than my daughter? And I didn't.
Mimeograph. Thank you. There you go. Marie.
Yeah, mimeograph. The mimeograph paper. So we knew the answers to the test. The entire class did.
Right.
And so we all had the answers. I didn't realize it was a bell curve. So everybody else is like intentionally missing a certain amount of questions, which nobody told me. So I intentionally missed like maybe 3 or 4. But of all the kids to get the highest grade, this guy.
That's
and there's no way he had to have known we all cheated because there's no way I'm getting the highest grade in the class when I was barely passing the entire year.
That's hysterical. Okay, you want to talk about the education system? I never took chemistry. I didn't have to take chemistry. There's a lot of classes I never took.
No, it was mandatory.
I was, grew up. I grew up in Graves County, just outside of Mayfield, and I went to Lowe's High School. And I don't remember being required to take more than maybe a geometry class and maybe one algebra class. No, that's all the math I had. I had to take remedial math when I got to college. They made me take a math remediation because I didn't have exposure to it.
We had geometry, algebra 1, algebra 2, and then for science we had biology. I don't remember having physical science like they have now, but we had biology, we had chemistry. I had to have a physical science my freshman year. Then biology sophomore year, chemistry junior year, then senior year was physics.
I just don't remember. I mean, this was the 70s, man. It's been a minute, And I played basketball, and I had great grades. I had a great GPA and all of that.
Mine was horrible.
But they did make me take it's so funny. Nate Bargatze, do you listen to him? He's a comedian. He's from Old Hickory. Funniest dude, man, and he's clean comedy. Love that guy. So Nate Bargatze, he's talking about going to community college, and they made him take math, and I thought, me too, brother. Me too.
I actually enjoyed taking a college math class.
Yeah.
That became like an addiction to me. I'd be up like 3 o'clock in the morning working on a math problem. Christy would wake up like, "What are you doing awake still?" "I'm trying to figure out how Steve got to Boston from Chicago." Where it was like during a math problem, one of those word problems, and I would. For me, it's like I will not stop until I master something now. That's something I didn't have as a child, but it's something definitely gained as an adult. Is that if I'm gonna do something, I want to be the best at it, and I want to have it mastered. But I remember being up like 3 in the morning, working math problems and stuff because I wanted to get an A in the subject.
Well, that's one of the reasons why I argue for having you back at Greek. I mean, I've talked to all my fellow teachers. We need Matt Driscoll back because you've got some experiences because you were that kid. I'm not going to call them out, but I had 2 or 3 kids. "I'm not going to graduate, Miss Vivio. I'm this. I'm like, yes, you can. I said, go talk to the counselor, and they say, well, it's doable. I said, well, then do it. And I love the example that you had because you were that student that barely got through, but now you have 2 masters, and you have 2 degrees, and you have 2 PhDs, and you have 2 LLCs, talking about getting your doctorate, and you got your master's. I mean, you didn't barely get by with your master's. Didn't you have like a pretty high GPA?
Yeah.
What was it? Just brag. Come on.
389.
There you go. And from Tribeca?
Mhm.
Okay. And your master's are in what?
Education and religion.
Okay. And here's somebody that barely got out of school. How long did you serve in the military?
11 years active, and the rest of the time guard.
I mean, and the experiences that you bring to the table are priceless because there's a lot of, I mean, I had a pretty idyllic life. I don't have some of the experiences that our kids are having now. And I mean, I've got my own journeys. I've talked about those, but there's the stuff that you've dealt with as a kid.
But glory, I have to give glory.
Yeah.
Glory goes to God first. And then the second is, honestly, is the generation. This is something I've been thinking about is, I had the greatest generation to look up to.
Yeah.
I think we talked about this last week briefly. I can't remember if we did or not.
Yeah, he was in here just for a few minutes last week. That's why we wanted to give him an hour today.
When I had the greatest generation to look up to is the folks come World War II.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, the pride in America they had, the pride in military, and just all that was kind of like a little bit ingrained because generally we're going to look up to our grandparents' generation. Right. I think that's part of the problem we have right now is the grandparents today are the boomer generation, which is kind of the hippies, right? The push back against everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's probably some logic here to it, if you kind of think about it. Because usually most kids look at their parents and say, oh, they're just idiots. And very rarely do you want to follow in your parents' footsteps. Kids naturally want to push back. I think it's kind of, human nature. So for me, I knew, college was not going to be for me. Because back then, 70, during your time in the 70s, my time in the 80s, early 90s, the only way you're getting to college is if you had the grades.
Well, and money.
Yeah.
You had, it was expensive.
Yeah, I guess. Qucompared to now, it's, not even close.
Well, I know, but
you could actually go, you could actually get a degree, you can actually get a complete 4-year degree for $10,000.
Yeah. That's true.
Compared to now. But yeah, you did growing up with no money. Yes, it was going to be harder for us. I could have got scholarships if I had the grades.
Right.
But college was a lot more selective back then.
Mm-hmm.
Even things like an associate's degree had weight. I don't like the Tennessee Promise. It's watering it down.
Well, it's kind of like we were saying, if you don't have a little bit of skin in the game.
Yeah, and it's my stepson, Noah, I love him to death, but he's got an associate's degree and he's doing nothing with it. And there's a lot of kids out there doing it. Now, what I do like about it is it allows it to go for kids that may want to go to a Voc, learn a trade. I can appreciate that aspect. But to have every kid go out and get an associate's, now what's that associate's worth? Before, that associate's used to be worth an extra, couple grand a year on a paycheck. Mm-hmm. Now it has no weight because everybody's got one. Where does that put you above the competition? Now if you want to be above the competition, you have no choice but to get a bachelor's at a minimum. My younger daughter, Emily, she just graduated with her master's program in social work. And I'm proud of her. She's burnt out, but I'm so proud of her because it's going to put her above her competition. But you almost have to do that to better yourself. Because to me, the job field, the job market, it's a competitive world. Mm-hmm. You've got to have something that sets you apart. And especially here you are in your early 20s, trying to start your life out, what's going to set you apart from somebody else? So I'm really proud of her for doing that because for me, that's the main reason I want to encourage her. I know she hated going back to school, keep on going back to school, but to me, it just made sense. So like I said, I'm not a big fan of every kid gets an associate's degree because basically it's just watered down. Most of these kids just use this as a 2-year extension of high school. Mm-hmm. By the age of 20, I was already married, had a kid, had already deployed. These kids are just, for them, it's stunting their growth almost.
Yeah, that's like you said, it's not necessarily for everybody. That's why I'm glad that they are pushing more of the programs that are technical programs that they can go into. And I forget what the name of the program is that's here in, they can go in and they can study about robotics and, I forget
STEM.
the name of it. Well, yeah, but there is a, I can't remember.
Like guys like Mike Rowe. I love Mike Rowe. Mike Rowe is
he has a new movie coming out, by the way, too.
And the passion he has for the blue collar world is amazing. And he pushes. He comes out. He's just speaking truth. You look at the numbers, don't lie. Right now, if you need a plumber, you're about to pay through the nose because they can charge whatever they want to charge because there's so few of them. Electricians, a lot of these trade skills were lacking. And so I really do appreciate a lot that Mike Rowe does as far as promoting a lot of the trade skills. So that's one area I am glad that we do have the Tennessee Promise open to. If a student wants to go into cosmetology or something like that, or that'll pay for that. Where in years past that wasn't the case; they'd have to be out of pocket because that was not considered education. But it is. It's still something that's learning them a trade that's needed. Everybody needs to get a haircut. Everybody needs to flush a toilet or turn a light switch on.
Right.
And we need the people to be able to do that. So I am appreciative for that regards, but just to have every kid go just to go to me is just, I'm not a fan of it.
The Technical College of Applied Technology, that's what I'm talking about. That is the one that I'm trying to, because we did.
TCAP?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
And that is the one that because I've got several students that were going in right straight there. And it just sounds like a really good option for them. But those kinds of things.
Yeah, two of my teachers at school teach there.
Well, but here's the thing. Tennessee Promise will pay for that.
Yeah.
The Tennessee College of Applied Technology. And that's cool. And, when you give the kids more options is the thing. And I'll tell you what, it's already 7:30, Matt. Jeez, oh, Pete. We just go down. He and I we're good friends. We do celebrate recovery together on Tuesday night. So we're going to talk about that in just a second. I need to take a break real quickly and talk about some of my sponsors. And I appreciate so much my sponsors that have been with us for so long. And we're going to start with Barry and Rebecca Richards with Exit Prime Realty because they've been with me the longest. They've been with us from the very beginning when we were over on the WDBL side. And good friends, if you're looking for help in the real estate community, cannot say enough about the Richards. You can reach out to Barry or Rebecca. They have independent offices. She is an agent up in White House. He is a broker here in Springfield, but they combine those two offices to bring you a new branch in the Exit tree. It's called Exit Prime Realty. They've been associated with the Garden Gate team for a long time, but they've just, again, a new branch, same tree. If you want to reach out to Rebecca and get some details, you can give her a call at 615-504-7425, 615-504-7425. Barry has an office right here on the downtown square. Anything you need from them, if you want to buy or sell or just kind of get a gauge on what the real estate market's like, I've got them kind of keeping an eye on property above where my property is right now, because if any of those houses sell at the top of the hill, I might have a kid interested in them. They kind of would like to live near me, but they don't want to live in my yard. So I don't know why that my kid wouldn't want to come build a house like right beside me. But hey, anyway. But we just kind of been keeping that in mind. But those kinds of things, you can reach out to a realtor and say, hey, I might be interested in da 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 da. Let me know if anything changes in those areas, and they can reach out to you and let you know. The real estate market, it's just constantly in flux with the interest rates going up, going down. How much house can you buy? It's a different market than what it was a year and a half ago. We all know that, but real estate is still something they're not making more of. It's always a good time to invest in real estate. If you're trying to sell property, you want to make sure it's seen in the best light. Barry's a marketer. He was a vice president of a media marketing company for 17 plus years up in Nashville. He knows his stuff. I have a lot of technology questions with the audio video program that I'm doing up at Greenbrier, and he's my go-to. When I have a question, he's the guy I call because he's the one who gives me the answers that fixes the problem. That tells you he knows his stuff. Can't say enough about my friends Barry and Rebecca Richards. Exit Prime Realty. They specialize in Robertson County properties because they're cross-Planians, been here for nearly 30 years, but they also buy and sell in the surrounding counties and across the state line in Kentucky because they're from Kentucky. So when you need help in real estate, reach out to Barry and Rebecca Richards, Exit Prime Realty, and please, always, you know what to do. Let them know that U-Turn sent you. And as we get back into it this morning, I want to kind of let Matt unpack for us. Celebrate recovery. Dear Lord. White House.
They're on the Summer County side.
They are. Do we have any others in Robertson County? We're it.
We're it right now.
Okay. And I'm talking about the one at Epiphany. We have the one that we run up at Madison Church of Christ. And, anyway, I'm sorry. I started to say something I'm not supposed to say. But anyway, go ahead. We sometimes when you forget that you're not supposed to talk about stuff with CR, and you have to bite your tongue. You know what I mean? I almost said something about somebody, and I was like, "Ooh, I can't do that." You have to stop yourself. 'Cause, I mean, it's a private. It's anonymity.
We are the only Celebrate Recovery in the county. Obviously, Robertson's very rural, agriculture type county. It is. It's kind of hard to. I think counties like this and other outlying more of the country counties, they're a little not as receptive to it because a lot of folks don't want to bring their stuff outside the doors of their house. Yep. A little more closed. I say closed minded, but
no, they don't want to be talked about.
Right, and. Like I went down to Murfreesboro last night, shared my testimony, and for me, it's like, look, this is not ours to hang on to. Mm-hmm. I've shared my testimony over 100 times. I've lost count. I've done it so many times, and I'll continue to share it. But it's freedom, and it's made me a better teacher. And I threw that in my new testimony. I threw that in there, because of what God has done in my life right now. And through Celebrate Recovery, I've learned how to be able to live transparently. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what makes me a good teacher. Yeah. I don't want to say, I don't want to sound arrogant, like I'm a great teacher, but I think what allows me to connect. You are a good
teacher. The kids tell me you're a good teacher. I know you. He's a good teacher.
I'm okay. I still got room. I still got room for growth.
We all do. If you ever think you don't.
But I think what allows me to connect with my students, like I said, I put this in my testimony now, is that I'm pretty open with my students as far as everything I do outside of school, as far as the ministry and pastoring and stuff like that, counseling. I've had students come talk to me after class, talk about some stuff they got going on. Mm-hmm. I've had some students refer their parents to me.
Because of chemical
issues. Because of chemical issues and stuff like that. So I mean, that's just it's been a blessing. And that's what CR gets you out of your comfort zone. It gets you out of my past is my past. I can't deny it. I can't hide from it. I'm a walking billboard for the ministry. It's Celebrate Recovery is really where it's at. To me, that's what the church was meant to be. Mm-hmm. The church was meant for the sick, not the healthy. I mean, it says that in the Bible, right? And when you live transparently and just be real, man, the enemy's got no control over you.
Yeah.
And that's really what Celebrate Recovery does. I share with folks the way I've rewritten my testimony is I'm no longer an alcoholic. Mm-hmm. I refuse to call myself that. If I were to go to AA or NA or any of the A's, once an addict, always an addict. No, I'm not. I don't desire drinking. I have no craving for drinking. But what I struggle with depression. I go through some serious. My lows are low, and I've had moments. Even today, I'll have moments of I just feel like I'm an absolutely useless failure, and I'm no good, and I suck as a teacher. I suck as a counselor. I suck at everything I do, and I'll get into a deep funk. But because of things like Celebrate Recovery, I know I can reach out to somebody. Like for me, it's my sponsor and other accountability partners, and I say, "Hey man, I'm in a dark place right now. I need to, please smack me around, talk some sense." And my sponsor will look at me. Look, you were the least failure I've ever met, and I need that. I need that at that moment. And it's not that I'm like looking for somebody to prep me up. I'm looking for somebody, please smack some sense, because I know in my brain that God's using me for good, but the enemy doesn't want that.
Yeah.
The enemy wants to get me down. He wants to get inside my brain and tell me that I'm garbage, because that's what my childhood was like. That's what growing up was like, that I was no good. I'm a fail at everything I try. I'm a burden and all this other mess. I think of Casting Crown's Voice of Truth song. That's one of my favorite jams, is because that was my entire life growing up was thinking about, I can't take down the giant. I can't step out of the boat. Mm-hmm. And God tells me something differently. And it kind of started through CR, and that's kind of overflown. Like I said, like the teaching, it's overflown into that. So my students are going to get knowledge of their topic, but they're also going to get knowledge of life as well in my classroom.
I love it, and the kids know that, and the ones who I've talked to that have been in your classroom, they get that, and I just think that's so priceless because there's so many. I have so many students that break my heart because you can just tell they do not have any. They just don't. They are just existing at home, and I'm sure there a lot of them have parents that love them, but they're so busy with life they don't tell them. They don't reinforce that. They spend way too much time at home. I've told this several times. I have these movie posters in my room, and one of the things I like to do is I'll come back in from the summer and say, pick a movie poster and relate it to your summer. And 9 times out of 10, it seems like the one they pick is Home Alone.
And a lot of these movies you've never seen either, too.
Oh, I know. I haven't. I know.
Side joke.
I know. This is like...
I saw a phrase or a quote during Tres Diaz, and it's really hung. You hear me talk about it on Tuesdays. You can count the seeds in an apple, but you can't count the apples in the seed.
Say that again.
You can count the seeds in an apple, but you can't count the apples in a seed.
Ooh, because you have no idea how many it'll grow.
Right.
Okay. Ooh, that's deep.
I saw that, and it has just completely, utterly resonated. And that's, but through ministry, like Celebrate Recovery, through teaching, through any avenue that you can take to find your ministry and find your place where you can connect with people. Your job is just to plant the seed. I don't expect to have a bunch I teach business. I don't expect a bunch of Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos.
You never know, though.
Hey, it'd be great. Kick Mr. D some cash for all I taught you. Great. I'll whatever. I'll be your posse. If I was your influence, great. Yeah, kick me a few mil. I'm cool. I wouldn't mind a little bit of Elon money. But I don't expect him to be that. But what I can expect, my hope is, hey, as long as we just plant a seed, and for those kids like we're talking about that may be late bloomers, you plant the seed and sit back and let it grow. Our job is to plant the seed, not to grow the tree.
Thank you.
And that's all we can do, whether it be, like I said, not just as teaching, but in ministry and anything else. It's all we can do is plant the seed. We can't make it grow. It's God's job. God's job is the one that's going to be the one fertilizing it, watering it, sustaining it, giving it the sunlight. All he wants us to do is plant the seed, move out of the way, let him do his job.
Amen.
And to me, I can't think of a better field to do that than teaching.
I agree. And I love it. And I can sit and I look at God's path and how he laid the path out for me to be where I am. And now my husband teaching, and it's so beautiful the way he did it. I mean, even down to, I sometimes try to figure out why in the world I spent 2 years working down in Dallas with the Blaze. I mean, if I had not done that job, because that was it was God's perfect timing. Number one, while my husband was disabled, the year my husband was disabled, that it was the only income we had, and it saved us. It kept us from losing everything. But in the same sense, I'm like, I hate selling junk. And the only thing I really got to do on the air was I was basically just selling. I was just doing commercials. And that's the least favorite thing that I get to do in broadcasting. I thought that I'd go down there and Glenn would be like, you need to do a talk show. And I should have. But he told me, he says, you're not supposed to be down here. And he was absolutely right. He was absolutely right, because I hated Texas. I loved the job, but I hated Texas. And so whenever I got home, I'm like, what was that all about, Lord? The doors that it opened. And had I not had that 2 years full-time experience at the timing I would have
qualified you for this job.
I would not have qualified for the AV job, guys. And I look at that and I'm like, wow, Lord, what you did.
Yep.
All this stuff. And I mean, I loved that time. I loved it. It was wonderful. But in the same sense, it took me away from my son, my youngest son, his senior year. And, and he's still struggling with his faith. So I look at that and I'm like, but if I had been here, but I still think it's part of God's plan. It's like I tell my son that that says he has no faith right now. I believe it's part of a big testimony, and I believe on the other side of it, it's going to be powerful because God is going to wake him up.
And it goes to the same thing. All you guys can do is just plant the seed.
Yeah.
And it's his walk. It's his walk. Yeah. And when it's his time to come to the faith.
Yeah.
And I think about like my first, I just hit my 8-year mark of sobriety Memorial Day Monday.
Congratulations.
And I remember, I know exactly how Saul felt on the road to Damascus, because that was me. I mean, he literally came down, met me right where I was at my lowest point, just like with Saul. And he gave me a new name. He gave me a new purpose. He gave me a new drive. If you told me 8 years ago that I'd be a pastor, counselor, teacher,
truly,
that wasn't for me. For me, I was trying to rise up the corporate ladder. I was want to be I was environmental health and safety in factories. And, my drive was always to be, hey, I want to be like a corporate guy where I'm over like, 8, 9 plants. And that wasn't me, but I was trying to make it me, because I figured that money and power is what defined me.
Yeah.
And that wasn't it. Look, hey, God provides for us, man. We're not rich, but we're not broke.
Yeah. Honestly.
We're right where we need to be financially. We're content. And the things that I do, I get to do. I get to go on Tuesday nights. Mm-hmm. How many times do you hear me say that? Mm-hmm. I get to go Tuesday night to celebrate recovery. I get to go to CR tonight at Long Hollow. Mm-hmm. I get to do these things. I don't have to do them. I get to do them. Yeah. I get to go to school and teach students. Mm-hmm. And great, there are times it's like I want to.
Time you're like I'm.
There are times you want to. Yeah, you want to drown a few of them. There are times you understand why animals eat their young.
Stop. So you can't say things like that, Matt Driscoll. Oh, no, I know you're just teasing, but you can't say things like that.
But it's true. There are times that students wear you down sometimes.
But you don't say things like that. This is the South, darling. We don't talk like that. I keep trying to tell him.
I'm Yankee-fying you.
Oh, you're like Yankee. Oh, my goodness.
I'm Yankee-fying it.
It's the South. We're more gentle. I have a friend. Oh, I got to tell you. This is so funny. This is so funny. One of my friends, and I had the reason I was out last week, I have an EPP, an educational preparedness program that I've been doing. So I had 3 days of all day classes in Murfreesboro as part of there's this guy that I'm in class with. I'm not going to call his name, but he's hysterical. He's about my age. We're the old ones in there. Most of them are all young. And so there's a few of us. And I think I'm actually a year or two older than him. But he's a cantankerous old dude that does, teaches a trade. And you come in here, you're going to do it this way. And some of the things he says. But the kids love him. The kids love him and adore him. But he had some kid come in and he said something about need a haircut, need this and all that. And it was on a day. Now, I'm not going to say all he said, but he was being observed that day. And after the administrator sat down to tell him, how his opinion of the evaluation, and he says, everything you say is not necessarily wrong, but you can't say it that way. That's what I'm telling you. You may be saying things that I understand. You get frustrated with some of these kiddos because you're just like, you're wasting your life. And but you got to be careful how you say it, darling.
I'm okay with how I say it. I can relate to that fella.
Oh Lord, you would love this guy. I told that's one of the things.
My students know I love them.
Yeah,
they know I love them, but they also know there are times that just I look right. I'm like, if we were teaching business, I would fire almost every one of y'all.
I tell my kids that. I tell my kids, I say, if I were, because we ran a roofing company for 20 years. We had to fire and hire people. And that's the only time I've ever been in a position of authority over people to hire and fire. But, oh, yeah, people come through and it's like, get out of here. You're not working for me. You're going out there and representing me. No, you're out.
No, if you can't handle basic things like, turning an assignment in on time, you can't do this in the business world. You can't do this in the workforce.
And I've told my students several times when I get really frustrated with them, I would fire everyone.
So you sit there saying I'm like I act like a Yankee. No, I actually more military.
Yeah, I got you.
So it's if you have to do something, you got to get it done. There's no excuse.
I understand why some parents.
I said animals.
Animals eat their young. You can't say that.
I've said about my own children. Come on now, you've never thought about your own kids sometimes.
No,
your kids have never done something that stupid. You're like, oh my Lord.
My kids have. I've had moments that they break my heart and they frustrate me, but no.
Never understood why, well, okay, well.
No.
See, my wife's a Southerner. Everything I heard that phrase from her. She's the one that put that phrase in my brain. She's a Southerner.
You're funny because she's got that military chutzpah too. Let me do a break here. I wish we had another hour, Matt, because man, we could just sit and talk. And I don't know if y'all are getting anything out of this, but we're enjoying it.
Get the apple
So,
seeds.
huh?
Get the apple seeds.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. That's the quote for the day right there. Let me talk about Cumberland Connect, guys. One of my sponsors, one of my wonderful sponsors. I love Cumberland Connect. My kiddo is hooking me up with a battery backup for my modem. So the next time the power goes out, I don't even have to plug in the generator. But that's one of the coolest things that I found about Cumberland Connect is even if the power's out, I can plug my modem into the generator and I still have internet. And I just love it. Cumberland Connect is powered by Cumberland Electric. If you are a Cumberland Electric customer, you're going to have access to the best broadband service I have had since I have been here.
Same here.
Bottom line, they have been awful. They have been awesome. They are local. I can get on the phone with them, and if I have questions or concerns, and they talk me through it. And it's because sometimes things break. Mine needed an update one day, and it was a little sluggish. I said, "What's going on?" And they said, "Oh, we need to do an update." And they did it while I was online, and while I was on the phone with them, and then just boom, there it goes. We keep talking about putting an extender in. We're going to get that done. I kind of want to do a hard line extender. That's what they recommend. I just don't have time to lay the line because you've got to lay the line or hire it done. And I'm like, I think I'm just going to have an extender and see how it does and put it in the house and see how it goes outside. I don't know, but I'll let you know how that works out. But here's $80. I got a gig and I can extend that out to my outbuildings for, I think, another $5-10 a month. That's awesome. And so I'm going to give that a try. But I just am a big fan of Cumberland Connect.
Best thing that happened to the county.
You better believe it. And it's changed everything. Well, I was talking about wanting one of my kiddos to move up here and build and live on the same property that we have. And number one, as I'm getting older, I kind of need one of my kids local. Well, the one that's primed to do it, the one that I think would be most likely to do it, he has opportunity to work from home sometime. And he's got to have a good connection. Well, when his brother that also has some work at home options and they both do really, really well, but it wasn't available when he was looking at really putting down some roots, right? And I think the oldest one, the other one might have built out here had he had better internet. But that's been, in the last 10 years. But it's only just been a year and a half ago that I was able to get Cumberland Connect. So now one of the other boys is looking at it, and he'll have that connection. It changes your property value and the availability of being able to work from home and the things that we discovered that we can do because of COVID. But anyway, I digress. If you want to know if it's available for you, you can call them at 800-987-2362, 800-987-2362, or you can just go online, cumberlandconnect.org, put in your address, and it'll tell you whether or not they're about to knock on your door. You're going to love it, guys. Cumberland Connect, cumberlandconnect.org. Put your address in, see if they're ready to get it installed in your home, and when you do, let them know. Okay, Matt Driscoll, let's do the big inbox and celebrate with for tomorrow night at Epiphany. What time do we meet?
All right, we get dinner at 5:30 or 5:45. We meet at 6:30 for large group. We do have child cares provided, basically birth all the way up to teenage. So don't let that be an excuse. So I got time to eat. I need to have someone watch my kids. Hey, we'll feed you and we'll watch your kids for you. Please join us at 6:30 for large group, 7:30 small group. I'd love to sit down with you, tell you more about the ministry. Look, the ministry is, it's for everybody. Mm-hmm. Really only a third of the people that come to CR have addictions. The other 2/3 are folks just struggling with life. Yeah. And you can see those numbers in fact by just coming to our CR. Really about 2/3 of the folks that come on Tuesday nights are struggling just with life in general. Yeah. My wife doesn't have an addiction. She just married me. So, that's part of her struggle. Yeah. Her people pleasing, codependency, stuff like that. But so come check us out. I promise you will not be disappointed. Yeah. We have a really good worship team. So we do a little worship. Tomorrow night is a testimony. Yeah. So you get to kind of hear what God's done in people's life, and what this ministry's done. So come check us out. We're at 211 First Avenue in Springfield. Again, that's 211 First Avenue in Springfield.
And you can come to the Madison Church of Christ on Wednesday night and join us. Same schedule, 5:45 dinner, 6:30 large group, 7:30 we break out for open share. And we've got a nice little group, and we're the church. That's what I never had that experience. And for me, we talk about how that the biggest part of the people who come are not dealing with chemical or alcohol addiction. They're dealing with things like I'm dealing with. I'm dealing with some really deep spiritual issues and deep church issues. And if you've listened to me for any extended period of time, you know my story about, just being just really disappointed by my church back home. And that sent me down and just stepped away from it. And still being a woman in the organized church, how women are dealt with is just it is a problem. And no, I don't think I'm wrong. But anyway, I had to call one of my accountability partners last night because I have so many issues with church right now, and I had to just talk through some stuff, and I can't help it. And I'll be honest with you, I think part of it is the Epiphany Praise and Worship Band. They have let me come in and do some work with them that I have felt called to ever since I was a kid. And nobody would let me do those things because I'm a woman in the fellowship that I'm in. And so it feels so weird for me, but they've allowed me to kind of explore that, and it's just been a blessing to me. But the things I've grown through and grown toward because of, what I've learned through it. I just, so many things it's helped me with. I have a lot of food issues, Yeah, and I don't talk a lot about that, but I have a lot of food issues, and that helps me with that.
But again, it all goes back down to the basic hurts.
Yeah,
from childhood, and we do this thing called a step study.
Yeah, and
basically it's a study. It's a study of yourself.
Yeah,
and things like hurts from like my past, like my childhood and stuff like that. Yeah, I'm still working those out. There's it's not an instant fix, but what it does, it allows you to keep. I really don't care why you come to CR. I want to help show you what got you to CR. And that's what we do, and that's what things like step study does. The way we walk through the steps together, it helps show you the what got you there, why would I act out, when it came to like affairs and stuff like that, my sexual immorality. Well, it goes back to a lot of it does go back to my child. Now, it doesn't get me off the hook for because of this, I can go do this now. But what it does, okay, this is why I'm thinking this way. This is why this desire is being triggered right now to drink or pornography or lusting after another woman or something like that. Where is this coming from? And it allows you to figure, why does 1 and 1 equal 2? And that's kind of what a step study does and celebrate recovery does. It helps you understand the why.
And I like to, I'm one of these people, I hate for people to make excuses, but I do, but making excuses is not the same thing as understanding the reason.
And what's folks, you're not pointing blame.
Yeah, exactly.
You're putting the ownership where the ownership has to
Yes.
go.
Yeah.
Certain things have to go in a box.
Yeah.
Okay. I do A because of B. You're not blaming it. You're not saying, well, my mom and dad, they were scripts. No, you're not blaming a parent.
Right.
You could have had good parents, but there was still just something that they did or the way they raised you. You're a parent. You said a little while ago about your time away from your son. You believe that affected his faith. Okay. Does it mean that you and Mark were bad parents? No. It was just because of a season you were in. It had a consequence. For every action, there's going to be equal opposite reaction. All right. See, there's high school physics 101 right there. So it's not putting the blame. It's putting the responsibility where it has to go. Okay. Why do I do this? Because a lot of times you don't realize why you're doing it. Growing up, for me, marriage and relationships were disposable. My mom's on her, fourth, fifth, whatever. I don't know. I've kind of lost count. My dad's on his third. Even my grandparents, who I loved dearly and I always looked up to them, my grandfather stepped out on my grandmother. When I was a kid, I got to witness that. I should chase him down the road with a butcher knife. Luckily for him, he's a lot quicker than he looks. So for me growing up, marriages really weren't meant to be, that's what men are supposed to do kind of thing. Even though I know that's wrong, but you're self-conscious on what you're taught and what you witness, it's going to imprint. I go back to the can't think of the psychologist's name, but he imprinted with a bunch of ducks. So the ducks thought he was the father. And then he was able to go on his theory on how, when it's come to psychology, So I do believe in Freud. I believe in a lot of what Freud talks about, how a lot of our issues do come down to mommy daddy issues. But I also believe that in that mentality as well, that we also are a byproduct of what we witness in our environment. If we are nurtured in a certain unhealthy way by not just our parents, but just by society in general and those close around us, yeah, it's going to imprint on us, and we're going to start adopting those beliefs, even if we know it's wrong.
Yeah.
All right. I was not a believer before I met my wife, but I still knew in my heart that, hey, adultery is bad. Okay. Don't need to be a believer. Hey, don't go stealing your neighbor's stuff. Don't need to be a believer to do that. Right. That you just kind of know those are wrong. But yet, because if you live in a certain environment and, hey, if you got to steal to live, if that's part of the social norm, you're going to fall into that, even though you know it's wrong.
Right.
Kind of thing. So I know I completely scrolled there.
I need to do one more ad, and then we're going to say bye because it's 8:00. I knew we would just it would go quick. But we need to pause and talk about Veterans Motorplex. And here's the thing, you need to go to the races. This is so much fun. I love going to the races at Veterans Motorplex. I went several times last year, and had so much fun. I'll be out there several times, just trying to get through baseball season. My kiddo, my oldest grandson, is playing travel ball. So we're just, all tied up with that right now, but I can't wait to take him to the races this year. It is so much fun. It is a family-friendly environment. If you're somebody that just doesn't want to be around alcohol and you think, well, I'm going to go to the races for that, they don't serve alcohol. They don't sell it. They don't allow it. So it's that family-friendly. They've got a concession stand, burgers and hot dogs and popcorn and all those kinds of things. Local kids work in the concession stand. I love that. I had several kids, that was their first summer job, working over at Veterans Motorplex. The big thing is you need to follow them at Highland Rim Speedway. That is their social media presence. It's the Old Highland Rim Speedway Facebook page, because this past Saturday it was a rain out. And you need to know rain affects it. They can't race if it's raining. So if you want to know anything about a schedule change, follow them at Highland Rim Speedway. But put it on your list of things to do just immediately. A $40 ticket will get up to 8 people in. You can take up to 6 kids. So take your kids and their friends and 2 adults for $40. What a fun night. It is so much fun. You are going to love it. I promise you. Just go. You're going to be like, man, this is cool. It is a fast quarter-mile, high-banked asphalt bull ring, fun for the whole family. It's at 6801 Kelly Willis Road in Greenbrier, one of our just treasures here in Robertson County that so many people don't even realize is happening. Veterans Motorplex at the Old Highland Rim Speedway, racing every Saturday night, weather permitting, through October. And when you get out there, please, please, please let them know you can see the show. We got to say goodbye, Matt Driscoll. We'll have you in a few times this summer because you're going to be on schedule, so we'll get back in here. But anything party ways, one more time about to Southern Recovery tomorrow night.
Yeah, come up tomorrow night, Tiffany Baptist Church, 211 First Avenue. And we start at 6:30. Get dinner at 5:45. So we'd love to join you for dinner. Join us for dinner. Down to do a little fellowship. Just break some bread and love to have you.
And invite them to church on Sunday too. Y'all have fellowship there.
Get to church, whether it be our church, some church, go to church.
Absolutely. Appreciate you, brother. And appreciate you guys for joining us. This is 1100 WSGI. Don't forget